Hello again, mask collectors and art lovers. By art, I mean the art of monsters, of course. Welcome back to the Mask Fan Attic, where it's always a mess and it's always an uncomfortable temperature, no matter what time of the year it is. Guaranteed, it's never a comfortable temperature in this attic. It's either so cold that like your fingers are freezing, or the rest of the year it's so hot you'll sweat like a chunk of rancid pork. It's never nice up here for some reason. I need central air in this attic is what I need. But let's get on with this week's mask, shall we? It's this little creation right here. Look at this. It's looking at you. You might as well look at it. What about that, folks? I think this is awesome. This was made back in 1997, okay, by none other than Paul Daniels, better known in the mask world as Darkside Paul, because he runs Darkside Studios. And actually on eBay, at the time of this taping anyway, he was on eBay as Darkside Paul. That's dark underline side underline Paul. That's how that was his eBay. If that's not true by the time you're watching this, I can't be held responsible, because I don't know, maybe you're watching this 20 years after I taped it. And maybe that's not true anymore. But where was I? Oh yeah, the mask. The mask here is called, can you guess? No, that's wrong. It's called Socket. You know, like eye socket. But please, don't sock it. No, there's nothing more painful than a sock in the eye. Well, except maybe a shoe in the eye. But anyway, Socket here was, as it happened, sort of a limited edition, because it was too hard to paint and too hard to trim it as a wearable mask. So, for one reason or another, only 6 of these were made, and I don't know where the other 5 went, because I don't believe I've ever seen another one in anyone else's collection, but somebody must have them. Out of those, most of them were untrimmed like this, were just display pieces, and a couple of them at least, Paul made them to be wearable by painting little black lines in the iris and then cutting out little slits on the sides of the black lines in the iris. So a couple of them at least were wearable to some extent. I believe Paul painted all 5 of the others. I painted this one myself. You know, to me, I have brown eyes, and I know more people have brown eyes than have blue eyes, but somehow to me a brown eye looks like a brown eye and a blue eye just looks like an eye. So I went with blue. And I know, all those blue-eyed mutants running around out there. Here's the idea. And one thing I love about this is that purely by coincidence, I had just drawn a sketch myself of a mask very like this, that I thought, wouldn't it be cool if somebody did a mask that was just a big eyeball head, and then it had sort of like the bib and the neck and the back of it were sort of like the optic nerves and the little tendons and veins that go up onto the eyeball. And Paul had exactly the same idea right about the same time I did, only I didn't do anything but think about it and draw a little sketch of it, and he actually went ahead and brought it to life as a mask. Now, a lot of people see this and they think, oh, it's the Residents, because there's a band called the Residents. They're pretty cool, by the way, like the Residents. The Residents are known for wearing eyeball heads when they perform, but they're bigger and they're not as anatomically correct as this one. And anyway, the Residents are by no means the first, last, or only people to think of eyeballs being, you know, a head that's just a giant eyeball. But this has nothing to do with the Residents, do you? No, see, he doesn't. As I drop him, no, I'm not going to drop him, but he is a bit heavy because he's stuffed and he's on this giant piece of PVC pipe here that almost slipped out of my hand, and you wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't said something. Can we edit this? No? Okay. Anyway, Socket here, 1 of 6. Oh my gosh! Probably also discontinued early on by Paul because of the high cost of Visine involved in making the... Anyway, 1 of 6 from 1997, and it was only Paul's 4th sculpture. Now, he doesn't like it. He's kind of, you know, disappointed with it and always ragging on himself about his early sculptures and that, but I think a lot of the artists I know are that way and kind of too hard on themselves and kind of undervalue their own work. I think Paul Daniels is one of those guys, because this is cool. This is a cool mask, don't you think? No, you can't see out of it, but it's still a mask technically. It's a display mask. As a matter of fact, it showed up in Horror Hotel in several different capacities over the years. Horror Hotel being the thing that Laura and I do here at our home at Halloween. My favorite was the year he was the eye doctor. Redid our laboratory to look like sort of an eye doctor's office, only a very weird one with all sorts of inappropriate equipment for eye surgeries. And this guy was the eye doctor, and he was on a mannequin that had a motor in it, so it turned back and forth like he was looking at the crowd as they came in. And then he had his various patients in the room, and he was making, you know, fitting them for special spectacles and custom lenses. And as it happened, his clientele that year were monsters with an atypical number of eyes, you see, a non-traditional number of eyes. So there was a Cyclops and a 3-eyed monster and a 15-eyed lady, and they were all in there to get their glasses that he was making. Anyway, that's the story with him. And then another year, we put a wig on this and put it on a little girl mannequin. It looked like a little skinny teenage girl with a cell phone and such. And that year, it was called iCarly. I thought that was pretty good too. Didn't you think that was good? All right, don't look at me like that. Anyway, that's about all I have to say about Socket. I don't know where those other 5 ended up, but they are out there. Other companies have done similar things, like giant eyeball heads. Distortions had one in the 90s that was called ICU. That's not literally IC, that's the letters, ICU. I didn't buy one because I assumed that stood for intensive care unit. But anyway, theirs was a much cheaper. It was one of their low-end masks. And since then, there's been another big eyeball head, one of which came out in 2015 from Ghoulish Productions, and another one from some company overseas that I don't even know the name of, but there is a company overseas making eyeball head masks too. So it's kind of, you know, it's an idea that lots of people have had, and I think it makes a nifty creature design. Very simple and effective and dramatic. And that's about all I have to say about Socket, and this time I really mean it. Good night.